Welcome to Daily Spark TV. Today we are talking about the mindful Christian. My guest today is Pryam Bann, and let me tell you a little bit more about her. She is originally from Trinidad, but currently resides in Quebec, Canada. She's a wife, a mom, and a grandmother. She has always been drawn to the arts and is a self-taught artist and writer. Her purpose, she says, to learn how to be a better human being today so that she can teach others when the opportunity presents itself tomorrow. I love that. Learning to live in a state of grace and gratitude for all of life's lessons. She is also the author of The Silent Teachers. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Dr. Angela.
Now, culture is something that, depending on where you live, may mean different things. But we are, here in the United States anyway, a culture that seems to be trying to evolve from being very me-focused, being very self-centered, into being one that is much more mindful, much more aware. Have you found that to be true? And if so, how do we understand what it means to be a mindful person?
Well, it's kind of a paradox, being mindful, because first you have to think of you, and it starts from there. So mindfulness begins with you, and it's a matter of starting with your thoughts, because what you think is what you're going to speak, and what you speak is how you're going to act and react. So this is where mindfulness comes in. So you have to realize we are all limited in our perceptions. And so just don't react with anger or violence or in that sense. You know? So that to me is being mindful, is when you take a step back and not react.
And you know, you're making such a valid point there, because so many times we react according to our own experiences, because we've only experienced what we've experienced. So if someone has been mindful or loving and kind or gentle with you, then you know that it's okay to do the same thing because of how it made you feel. But you're also exposed to that even as an option to be able to do that with another.
Yeah, and you know, I have been accused of being a coward because I took a step back, because that person has known violence, and they get things done by yelling, screaming, and this was their upbringing or their perception. So it's up to the mindful person to, like I said, not react. And it's a trait that can be learned. It has to be learned through experiences.
Now, Pryam, so many times we're afraid of the unknown. We become unnecessarily cautious because we don't know what to expect. When it comes to this word mindfulness, because perhaps there's someone watching saying, uh-oh, I don't know that word. What is that? What are we talking about today? How should we understand mindfulness if we are also living out the Christian faith?
Let me see. I kind of got the question. I'm at a blank.
So many times we think of the word mindfulness as just being something that's a little new age. So let me kind of rephrase a little bit. For some people, that word, or being self-aware or being in the moment or a sense of consciousness of what we're doing, that's something that's for people over there. That's for folks who only practice yoga and get up, with the sunrise. But how can we understand these words as a Christian?
First, you have to know that when you don't go ahead in life, it's because of fear. Mainly, it's because of your fears. And so once you recognize what it is that's stopping you, you can push yourself. You step over that fear. Like before I started painting, even now when I paint, when I take the brush in my hand, I hesitate. What if I don't do what I want to do? What if, so this what if question is, it comes up in every aspect of your life. So it's, and being mindful is getting close to your own spirituality. It's getting to, for you to be more of an open person. So.
And I think that I like how you said that in understanding that we need to be more open, what a wonderful concept to explore with a brother or sister in our faith to, help us stretch to become the people that we know ultimately we can be. If you have a concern, but I have experience in that, perhaps I can help you grow. But there's going to be something that you're going to be able to help me grow in.
Because like Dr. Maya Angelou says, when you learn, teach. And that goes for every living human being on this planet.
Absolutely.
Because this is how we evolve, is by teaching each other and learning from each other. No one is bigger than the other, because we all at the different stages in our evolution, and so we must respect each other in that sense.
And you brought up such an awesome person, Dr. Angelou, and those who follow have heard me say before, I love how she says, we are more alike, my friend, than we are unalike. And when we really listen to those words, I think that we definitely have to agree. Well, it is time for us to take a very short break, but when we get back, we will continue this great conversation. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark TV. Question for you. As a mom, as a grandmother, balance is important with just the roles and everything that you have to do. How do you find the time to keep everything just so?
To begin with, my children are all they're grown. So my role now is to be supportive and to be loving. So I take those roles very seriously. With my grandchildren, they are my teachers. They are my teachers in the sense. So I try to spend as much time I can with them. And I teach them, they teach me. And this is the balance that I have right now. I have of course, my work, my painting, my writing. And so the balance is there. And I find my life very fulfilling. And
Now, there's someone watching that's going to say, hey, wait a minute, she said something a little different there. That even though you're a mother, your role is a little different. So for the person who says, so you mean I don't have to treat my adult children the way that I teach or have treated my teenage children? How does that transition kind of work?
Because at this stage in their lives and in mine, because they are adults, I have to let them go, you see? I have taught them, as they were growing up, responsibilities. I've taught them, I did my best to teach them how to function as human beings. And so I have to let them go.
Yeah.
You see, just like the bird has to let their hatchlings fly when it's time.
Yeah.
You know, and I do not judge their decisions in life. I support it. I tell them my point of view, and then I let them go on to live their lives with support. You know, I am here if you need me. So to me, that is my role in life now.
Do you think that for some young adults out there that that's what they are trying to articulate to their parents, but they just don't know how?
Exactly, because some parents have expectations of how their children should be, what kind of education they should have, how they should behave, what kind of person they should marry. And to me, this is where conflict comes in, where it doesn't need to be. Because being adults, they have their own minds, their own path to follow in life. See, they chose their path, and I have done what I needed to do as a mother. And now I can leave. I can leave them in the sense knowing that they can take care of themselves, you know, and be at peace with it. And I find that I get more respect out of that way of thinking, and I respect them more too. You know?
And I just love it because when I hear you explain it that way, the word that comes to mind is permission, that you're giving them permission to be the adults that they need to grow into, that they're ultimately going to be. But in giving that permission to them and them accepting it, they want to now come back to you anyway because you've given them the freedom. They really do want to return to be able to come back and say, guess what I did today? let me share this with you. And they're excited to be able to do that.
Yes, they are.
Now, speaking about change, not everyone likes change, and change for many people is kind of like a 4-letter word, if you will. And it's like, please don't do that. But what are some simple things that people can do when it's time to change or transition into a new stage of life?
When change is coming along, fear steps in. Fear always steps in when there's change. And change, to me, is it's a natural way of going to the further step of evolution. We need change, and change will always happen. Change is the only constant in life. And this is how I look at it. This is why whenever fear steps in to me, you pay attention. You become mindful. And you pay attention to, okay, fear is stepping in. So once you are aware of the fear that's stepping in, then you can step over it. You know? And so I know there are a lot of fears in life. An example is when my children would be looking at Sesame Street. Kermit I'm fearful of frogs. I had this deep fear of frogs to the point where when Kermit the Frog would come in, I would leave the room. You see, I couldn't look at Kermit the Frog. And after a while, I said, this is ridiculous. Really, it's ridiculous. So what I did, I went and bought a tiny ceramic frog, the ugliest I can find. I didn't even touch it. I asked someone to put it at the door. And every morning, if I would be going out, I would see this frog, and the fear would step into me. And eventually, I could look at the frog and not have this anxiety and fear. I would actually, burst out in sweat because I was so fearful of this frog. And eventually, I said, oh, I can look at it, and I will have no reaction. So, so when you're very fearful of something, you have to step over it.
You have to step over it. I love it. And it just reminds me of, again, going to social media, and I'm sure people have seen it, where they remind you in stepping out in your fear, that fear is false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
And if we just remind ourselves that we were able to overcome this particular thing, we can also overcome the next thing. And I love it. Well, what a great place for us to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, my name is Pryam Bann, and I am the author of The Silent Teachers. The reason for writing this book is that I have gained a lot of knowledge and a lot of experiences by listening to nature and opening up myself to the lessons that we can learn. And to me, this is one of the ways that God speaks to us is through nature. And so my reason too is that I would like to share this knowledge because it has brought me to a place in my life where I can live from a place of peace. And to me, in this stressful world that we live in, it is very, very important that we go back to ourselves, to our basic values, and also to see what nature has given us. So this book is available from Top Link Publishing, also from Chapters Indigo in Canada, and also Amazon and Balboa Press. If you would like to contact me in any way, my email is priambannartist@gmail.com. Thank you very much.
And welcome back to Daily Spark TV. Nature. I love it. I call it God's handiwork.
Yeah.
Right? Be it that you love the forest or the mountains, the beach, sunrise, sunset. When we are becoming more self-aware or more mindful, how can we look to this beautiful handiwork that God has given us to be an inspiration?
This is where I find God, is in nature. And we talk about God. To me, I reference God as universal spirit. And when I go to a place inside of me, this is where I get in touch with God. Like in the morning, I get up, I have my coffee, and I look out onto my balcony. And right now it's summertime, so I have some flowers, and the birds come. And to me, these are gifts from God to me. See? And I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much because it's always a centering force within me. And to me, my soul is connected. My soul and my spirit is connected. This is the connection to universal spirit. And in anything that I do, He's always there. I'm never alone, even though I live alone.
That's right, but you are never alone.
Yeah, I'm never alone. Because even my grandson said one time, he was leaving my place and said, "Grandma, don't you feel alone?" I said, and I'm thinking, do I ever feel alone? No, I don't. Because I always have universal spirit with me. And it's through that connection that I find that I could teach and explore and be creative. And I am eternally grateful for that knowledge and that wisdom.
And along kind of that same line, calmness, learning to accept being alone but not lonely, and understanding that though we may be an individual, we are part of the greater whole. How do we teach that being calm is good to the next generation? That absence of chaos, that absence of having to be busy or hurried all the time.
I don't know if you can teach it. You see, because from my experience, from a child, it is through my pain that I learned to be to have a calm life and to not feel lonely. I would always go within, you see, and this is where my strength lies. And when I think about my childhood and the pain, I always look beyond. I always had this ability to look beyond what's actually occurring in my life. So I don't know if everybody have that ability.
I see what you're saying.
You see? So to me, it goes with your experience in life and how you perceive it. I look at perception as looking through a kaleidoscope. Every experience that you have in life changes that perception. And to me, that by learning to accept change is the great way. It's a great way to evolve. And to trying to teach that, I haven't figured it out yet.
Well, it sounds like the way that you teach it is by doing it, is by being it, that you are that calm force for others that are around you, be that it's your grandchildren or just the people that you interact with, and knowing that in the midst of the chaos, when I need that quiet, that still, that reassurance of, instead of the loud, but the whisper, that they could turn to, that they could turn to you for
and
that.
Nature is the greatest teacher that we can have. When we need that calmness, to take that step back and just be in nature, and that's one great way of learning how to calm yourself.
And I think that that's something that we all have kind of agreed on, is that God speaks to us so many times in the quiet, in the still, be it that you are driving in your car, or you're planting a garden, or you're holding a new baby, or I'm a sunset kind of gal. I know there's many sunrise folks out there, but I'm a sunset type of person. And in those moments, being on the beach and being able to see a sunset can bring tears to my eyes, and just the beauty and the magnificence of this moment of now will not be the same tomorrow. It wasn't like this yesterday, though it may appear to be. It's so unique in this gift that we are given. And it just really brings you to a better understanding that though no words may have been spoken, that God is communicating to you in that moment. I love that. Now, for someone who says, I get all of that, but I haven't figured out really how to rejuvenate my spirit, to be able to have that closeness and that connection with God the way that I would want to. What are some suggestions that you would have for that person? How can they hit that reset button?
Like I said, it's a matter of just taking a step back and to realize. Sometimes you hear people would say, why is this happening to me? Just go back into your mind and take the steps back, and you will see that what's happening to you, you led yourself to this. And once you come to that realization, okay, it happened, this is how it happened, and this is where I'm at, I don't like where I'm at. You have a great power that God has given us, which is the power of choice. You see? And with that power, you can move ahead.
I love it. And I'm so glad that you were able to spend time with me today, Pryam. I have truly enjoyed my time with you today. And I think that if I'm one who talks about being enlightened and empowered, I think that we were able to do that today. Thank you so much for sharing
Thank you
today.
very much, Dr. Angela, for giving me this opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. And viewers, thank you for joining me for another Daily Spark episode today. I know that I have really enjoyed spending my time with you. I hope that you are inspired, empowered, and enlightened. Until next time, everyone, be blessed in the Lord.